Okay, we're working on it. Can you hear that?
Hear you, but nothing else.
Okay. We're working on it. All right, they can hear me. I think we're back where they couldn't hear. Do you want to do something here?
It does not seem to be connected.
Congratulations, Joanne. Well, do we have any happy hours? No. A happy dollar for Kim and for Katie and their advocacy for childcare. Very good, thanks. Anybody else? Yes. Good morning. I found $1. Yeah, I found $1. And I just wanted to say that most of you hear me complain about how much I miss my getting up in the morning. But what I failed to say is that the reason I continue to do it is not because I see it, but because I really enjoy being here, learning from speakers like Katie, and I enjoy all the faces. So that makes me happy. Thank you. Excellent. I'm happy this morning because the parking lot outside is a lot better than it was last.
Okay, that's fine. Seems to be something.
Just wait till the end of the week, it'll all be
No.
Wendy? I have $5 happy this morning. My daughter had a baby girl yesterday, and that is child number 5. Congratulations, Wendy. You're too young to be a grandma. Anybody else? Should I come back to you? These guys on Zoom want to hear it.
Well, no, I can't hear.
I'm sharing a few of my happy dollars.
Nothing. Yeah.
Anyone else while I'm out and about? No? Good? Okay. Announcements. Do we have any announcements for this morning? Bill Garrosh.
Okay.
So, timing is perfect. To turn out for this meeting because I want to promote the programs for February. For those of you who haven't been here for a few weeks, we are working hard to get the program committee up and running after Kyle King's sudden move to Harrisburg. And I think that programs can be an attraction to new members. So think about these upcoming programs and who among your friends might be interested. Next Tuesday, February 4th, Julie Wheeler, who has been here many times before, is co-chair of the York County 250th Committee. And that committee is York's contribution to the America 250th anniversary celebration. So, year will be that anniversary year. So, what we'll be doing. Thanks to Scott for providing that, which is close to him, so it worked out well for him. February 11th are the okay. So their good friend Alyssa Mayer, who's a medical doctor and at the administration system.
Now I can't hear.
7-story tower which is a kind of an advanced surgical and critical care center out at the York Hospital campus. February 18, Dr. Marilyn Wells, she is transferred of what they call
Where are you?
to regional Penn State Commonwealth campus, comprised of Brandon Pine, Mount Alto, and York. And she'll be talking about this transition, you might say, in terms of regionalizing these campuses.
That's that.
To be determined, but I'm sure it will be something very interesting to everybody. You know, thinking about Penn State, there's got to be all kinds of connections here, and then even more among your friends. So it would be something that would be, I think, especially interesting. And on the healthcare side, I can just tell you, the older you get, the more you have the chance of needing some of that. So that will be especially interesting as well. So show up next month.
Thanks, Bill. And I want to thank Scott and Bill for picking up and covering the programs for February. I think, like Bill mentioned, it'll be interesting to hear our speakers and presentations throughout the month. Other announcements, Wendy, do you have one?
Since Bill brought up our meetings for February, Heritage Hills is moving us around a little bit, so pay attention to your Sunday emails. I think most of the month will be in the ballroom, but just pay attention to your Sunday emails so that you know where we're going to be.
Thanks, Wendy. Chris?
Thanks, Greg. I just wanted to remind everybody that this is the last week for the grant applications to do, Friday. We are about at 8 so far. So I know there's a few outstanding that have contacted me and haven't responded. So if you have anyone that you're submitted or inquired with, just encourage them to get those out to me as soon as possible. Also, last week, as part of the Club Foundation, made an announcement about the Wildflowers Relief Fund. We received about 4 checks this morning, so thank you for all those who contributed. And once again, we're matching dollar to dollar up to $1,500 for anyone who does donate to that. So if we can get that in this week, that would be awesome. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? I don't know, Jim Norton, I know we are actually helping out with Catholic Harvest Food Pantry this week. I'm going to check in with Jim and just see how many volunteers we have for that. But if you signed up, great. If we are in need of help, we'll send an email out about that. That'll be Wednesday evening, 5:45 till about 7 o'clock. So if we are in need of people, I'll get an email out to everyone for that. But for those of you that have already signed up, thank you. Chris. Okay, good. 4 is a good number. So that's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other announcements? If not, I'm going to turn things over to our early riser, Andy, who's going to introduce our speakers this morning. So, Andy.
Good morning again. It's my pleasure to introduce Katie Caples. I know her pretty well as we used to work together at Explore York. Katie is a dynamic nonprofit leader with over 20 years of experience spanning business, community development, tourism, and early childhood education. She's owned a boutique consulting firm and has a strong background in strategic planning. Katie holds a degree in business administration and has completed leadership programs such as Sandler Sales Training, Leadership York's Nonprofit Leadership Academy, and Women's Business Organization. Katie's expertise helped shape the Every Child Has Opportunities, also known as the ECHO Initiative, leading to her role as the ECHO Director at Community Connections for Children, where she now drives the project forward. Please give Katie a warm York East Rotary welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Andy, and all for the warm welcome today. It's really an honor to be here presenting and sharing information and highlighting the early childhood education field that is instrumental
here in our community. So we'll cover a few things this morning in our time together. Hopefully, I did turn this on and we did test it out. There we go. We'll talk about ECHO's mission. We'll certainly cover some of the new grants and programs that we've been able to develop and guiding themes, which are collaboration and innovation. But I want to start by, if it would entertain me, by thinking about your own childhood. So just take a moment, think about maybe those first 5, 6, 7 years of life, who you were with, children you might be around, siblings, cousins, other groups, and the adults who influenced your childhood. So just take a moment and remember when. For me, I'm a farm girl from the mountains of Western Maryland, so family was big for me on the hip of my mom, working and tending the garden and the fields. Certainly cattle farming as well. So a lot of outdoor time spent for me and time with cousins. Church was also a big influence as well. And we'll go to, and I'll just move along and hopefully the slides will catch up, but I'm happy to share. We'll think about the early childhood education and ecosystem of today. So what children today are experiencing, it's probably different than your first 5, 6, 7 years of life, right? A lot has evolved in those decades. You can see a small picture. Slide 4 are my 2 daughters. I have a 10 and 7-year-old. In those photos, they're pictured with Miss Karen, who is their very favorite early learning educator. She worked in the Shrewsbury area for decades and decades and has since retired in the North Carolina area, but an instrumental influence in their life. And as a working mom, someone who I loved and adored and certainly appreciated her support and education of my children. I'll move into some statistics just to share the challenges of early childhood education. Wendy mentioned a new grandchild, which is so exciting, but parents today are facing a different reality likely than what you faced if you do have children or what your peers faced when they were raising children. So access to childcare. York County Economic Alliance did a recent childcare survey in which 3/4 of respondents struggled with childcare and said that it impacted their employment currently. So think about that. 3 out of 4 of the people working today have childcare as an impact into their working decisions. 85%. That is the current capacity rate, the average capacity of York County early learning providers here in our community. So that means 15% of classrooms right now are closed. So they have the capacity, we just don't have the workforce. And we'll talk a little bit about that and its impact on families. 1,400, that's the number of early childhood educators here in York County. And $12.20 is the average hourly wage of these professionals. So think about that. For those of you that are actively working right now, think about what $12.20 an hour would mean in your budget. Think about what decisions you would have to make if you were earning that kind of wage. And again, that's average. Some are below, some are higher, but around $12 an hour. Over 40% of our early learning workforce receives some sort of public assistance. So these folks who are doing the most important job, impacting our children, educating, guiding our children, over 40% are receiving some sort of public assistance, which is, I would argue, unacceptable. Wages must be increased in our field, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and certainly what we're doing with the ECHO initiative. But I just wanted to kind of set that groundwork for you today as far as the challenges that our field is facing. For parents, so let's go to the parent angle, right? So for working parents, the average cost of 2 kids in childcare is higher than their rent or mortgage payment. So again, working parents, usually kind of on the front end of their career, probably not making as much money as some of our more seasoned professionals, having an additional mortgage or rent payment each month. And again, deciding what type of care, what those decisions might be like for them. 1 in 3 people in your business, in your place of work, are trying to balance parenthood and work. So 33% are in this phase of life where they're balancing all of that. And that's what brings me to ECHO and certainly what we're doing in early childhood education here innovatively in our community. ECHO is Every Child Has Opportunities. You can see some of the foundational work is really driven by the York County Economic Action Plan that the county adopted, work through York County Economic Alliance. The two leading organizations for ECHO are Community Connections for Children, which is my employer. We serve as the Early Learning Resource Center here in York County. We serve regions 8, 9, and 10, so a 13 county footprint, but we're headquartered here in York, as well as York County Economic Alliance, who I'm sure many of you know very well, the Chamber and Economic Development Corporation here in our community. Major funding partners for ECHO, WellSpan Health, the Powder Mill Foundation, and J. William Wareheim Foundation, each stepped up for $1 million a year for 3 years to invest in early childhood education. They understand the impact of early childhood education and want to resource our community, and we'll talk about how we're doing that. So $3.2 million in 2025, it's our second year of programming. And then affiliated and additional funding partners include the United Way of York County, the York County Community Foundation, and the Kinsley Foundation. So these are folks who are stepping up, who see the need and are investing proactively in early childhood education. ECHO at a glance, I mentioned the two leading organizations, CCC and YCEA, but we serve as a catalyst for innovation and collaboration, and really providing a blueprint to address some of these chronic issues that our industry sees. The goal for ECHO and for York County is to double the number of low-income children who receive a high-quality early childhood education. We know the importance of the first 3 years of life. Over 80% of a child's brain development occurs in those first 3 years. And if we can provide stability, nurturing, education, support in those years, it makes an absolute difference across the span of their life. So if we can provide over 1,600 new 0 to 6-year-olds with that opportunity, that's what we're looking to do. We're doing it in a few different ways. We have 3 task forces. If anyone wants to join, we'd be happy to have you. Please see me after. Children and Families is really about creating opportunities for all. Workforce is about that talent attraction and retention piece. And then community is about things like this, right? Getting the message out here. Why is childcare important? What is early childhood education, and what does it look like now? For Children and Families, I'd love to share a little bit of detail of what we're doing to truly impact. Kim Moore is here, and she is a recipient of one of our grant programs. And I don't know, I don't want to put her on the spot, but I'm sure she could tell you, she lives and breathes it, right? She's a director at a center in East York. But Children and Families, so doubling the number. We're doing that by growing home-based providers. So many of you might be familiar with the different types of providers for childcare. There's family childcare who operate out of their home. There's group childcare providers here in the state of Pennsylvania who could operate out of their home or a commercial space. And then there's the center providers that might come to mind when you think of childcare, the YMCAs, the Crispus Attucks, those organizations that come to mind. So creating grant opportunities for them as well. We've launched 2 kind of signature programs, if you will, in 2024, the ECHO Innovation Grant Program and the Bloom Startup Childcare Forgivable Loan Program. For the ECHO Innovation Grants, in our pilot round, which was in the spring of last year, we awarded over $700,000 to 17 grant applicants. The results or potential results of those grants are over 400 new children served and over 60 new early learning professionals hired and employed. So you can see a little bit about that. We had 11 centers, 1 group, and 5 family providers that were awarded those funds up to $50,000, which is life-changing for particularly our family providers, but very much so our center-based providers as well. We just wrapped up our second round of grants for 2024. We had 16 applicants and 13 grants were awarded. So over $600,000 going out the door actually just this week through the grant review process and all of those things being wrapped up. You can see what the impact is: over 170 new children served, 27 new early learning professionals hired. The average low income percentage of those of children in those programs is right around 40%. And then I won't go into details, but many of you might be familiar with the Pennsylvania Keys, the STARS program, which is the quality rating scale. Of all of the applicants, about 40% are in that STAR 4, which is the highest quality rating in our state, which means about 60% are not at STAR 4. And so with these funds, with this private investment here in our community, we're hopeful that those STAR 1, 2, and 3 level providers are going to move up to STAR 4, which they would then get reimbursed a higher rate of Child Care Works, which is our subsidy program, and hopefully help their balance statement and business operate more smoothly. Examples of what ECHO Innovation Grants might look like: we've awarded outdoor experiential learning, teacher retention and recruitment strategies, collaborations with school districts, behavior mitigation strategies, and more. Here's an example of one in action. This is Small Steps Early Learning Center in East York. Travis and Brittany there in the middle. Brittany's position was created as a result of this grant program. They own multiple sites, and she's now an onboarding specialist. So when they are able to hire, they're going through a similar process, much like your businesses likely do. They did not have an HR specific position, and now they do. So the learning, the onboarding, then the skills development, all of that is happening more consistently in their program, which results in higher delivery of education for the students and children in their care. So we're really excited about just one example of those grants that I mentioned. We'll jump into what the Bloom Startup Program looks like. That's our second kind of signature program, if you will. That is all about startups. So starting up an early learning business. In the spring, we piloted a up to $20,000 grant program. That was for family providers only. 6 startups were awarded, so 6 brand new entrepreneurs that are operating family child cares here in our community, and they each received $20,000 to do so. This most recent round, so the second round of 2024, we expanded and included center-based programs that are starting up as well. Again, this is in partnership with Bloom Business Empowerment Center, which you might be familiar with. That's one of York County Economic Alliance's programs. But we're excited about what this might look like. So for this new round that just wrapped up, we're awarding 10 applicants over $300,000. What that equates to is over 360 new spots for children to receive high quality care and education, and over almost 100 new early learning providers. And of course, those 10 new entrepreneurs, right? Giving them that additional startup support. I'll move into our workforce area of focus next, which is crucial. You saw some of those statistics, which I mentioned. Recruiting, upskilling, and retaining is huge in this field, and how we might be able to do that with some of our wages being what they are. Our signature program in this area is a partnership with Harrisburg Area Community College, Community Progress Council as well. But it's a teacher aide, it's an apprenticeship style program. So folks brand new to the early learning field are coming in, receiving on the clock CDA, which is their Child Development Associate degree, while they're being paired with the mentor teacher. Some are working 20 hours, most are working full-time 40 hours. But this is on the clock professional development and career trajectory training. So we're really excited about it. They're receiving stipends to be in the program in addition to their wages. Lead teachers, those mentor teachers, are also receiving stipends. So again, injecting capital into the system, if you will. We're also providing teacher aid salary reimbursement for our providers, so helping them cover those costs of that position while they're being trained and supporting them. So we're really excited about this. We'll be expanding it this year to create a more formalized apprenticeship program, and hopefully then go into pre-apprenticeship and working with our K-12 system on getting students enrolled right into while they're in high school to be able to get some of these credentials and they can move along in their career in that way. Here you'll see pictured Crystal in the middle. Crystal is a teacher aide in the program. She works at York Day Early Learning, for those of you familiar with York Day. You'll see her mentor teacher on the left. Her name is Dana. Very experienced, wonderful teacher. in their program, and they've developed a great working relationship. The kids love Crystal, and she's been a great asset to their program, and I'm sure she'll be there for years to come as well. And then the third area is community. So encouraging our community to really understand early childhood education, what it looks like now, how it's changed, what some of the challenges are. You'll see we've hosted events like an economics breakfast. We did a bus tour just in November to bring folks out and see what high quality early learning looks like. And then we're doing advocacy work at a national and state level. On the right, you'll see a few of us from the York community attended the USDA Rural Child Care Summit in Washington, D.C. So lots of community activity, and that will certainly continue as well. You can learn more about ECHO, maybe know someone in the early learning profession. Make sure they're connected. We'd love for them to be on our e-news. We'd love to see what's to come. I am excited about a few programs. We're also launching, those signature programs are recurring this year. We'll also be launching a professional development mini grant program so that folks, mainly our lead teachers and assistant teachers, can get to some of these national and regional conferences to learn best practices, to bring those resources back into their program and share it with their colleagues and leadership within their programs. So that's one thing. We're also working with municipalities, so developing some best practices. Some of the challenges in opening a family childcare, you might imagine, are at the municipal level with even just education, right? We don't need 5 designated parking spots for an early learning business from someone's home. Not all 5 parents are going to be there at the exact same time for drop off and pickup. And it's educating those decision makers on, best practices. Here's what a model ordinance looks like. How can we start addressing this so that these providers can then open their doors quicker, right? And be more effective sooner. So that's some of the things we're working on. I would encourage you how you might be able to engage in this conversation. Have a conversation about early learning as a new grandparent, right? As a neighbor or friend. Just say, hey, if you know a young family, how are you doing? Let's talk about this. I'd love to know what you're experiencing day in and day out. Start a conversation with a local legislator. You could join a task force. So like I mentioned, we do have those 3 task forces. We meet virtually every other month. You could make a connection. Maybe you know someone that's working in a early learning program, or maybe you know someone at your job that wants to open an early learning program. Feel free to pass along my contact information. I do have cards and flyers at my table. I'd be happy to have a conversation with them. And then reach out, certainly. I'm happy to have any conversation. If you have a connection, if you're an employer that's like, we want to offer more family-friendly benefits, right? How can we retain? We're losing our staff because of these choices folks are having to make. I'm happy to have those conversations with you as well. That's all I have for this morning. I'd love to answer any questions if you have them, and certainly Kim is here, whether you want to have a one-on-one conversation with her or whether she wants to share a little bit about her program and the funding that she received. Go ahead, Diane. That's a great question. So we have $3 million per year for the next 3 years. Some of our funding partners extended their commitment as well. But one of my primary jobs is, what does that look like year 4, year 5, right? My goal would be to work myself out of a job. Hopefully we invest in, we need public dollars to support early childhood education. Right now in the governor's desk, with the budget, the current budget proposal, there's $284 million line item for childcare. Predominantly, that would go to educators in monthly stipend payment to help them with their pay. So it would equate to about $400 per month per educator if that line item is passed. And we would absolutely love for that line item to be passed. And we're advocating strongly for that. I was in Harrisburg yesterday with a child care and community group looking at what is next. What is that sustainable funding stream for this profession? K-12 is a public service. Early childhood education could be looked at as a public service. And why are we not investing in that way when we know the research, right? We know what this looks like. But here locally, my goal is to connect with employers, see what kind of support they might lend to this initiative. Certainly our government entities as well. The county has invested, and Commissioner Burford is here. The county has invested heavily in an Early Learning Investment Commission ECE Educator Award program. And some of our ARPA funding has gone to that, and they continue to lead the way in that. But is there additional revenue streams? Might there be opportunity? That's what I'm working on in the next few years, a major focus. Good question. Any other questions on early childhood education? Yes.
You think the hourly pay should be, what would be your goal to make an impact on drawing more people into it?
We would like to see hourly rates equivalent to K-12 educators, particularly elementary educators, which come in at about $60,000 annual income. So that would be the long-term goal. Short term, we'd love to get to the 20 mark as an average rate for our educators here as we step up to that additional funding. But I would like to think that everyone in this room would think someone educating, toddlers, preschoolers, absolutely deserves $60,000 or more annually. Yes, Deb.
Can you just expand on the long-term of child not having kind of influence in their life?
Absolutely. So data has shown, and the healthcare world, and that's why WellSpan Health is a major funder of this, the overall health of one's life really is set in those first 5 years. If you look at someone's first 5 years of life, you can pretty much articulate what the next 80 years are going to be. And for some of us in this room, we had some adverse childhood experiences, right? ACEs. And so with high quality early learning, we're seeing those neural pathways developed. We're seeing those relationships and security established, and it actually will reduce the public investment in the long term. So incarcerations are down, truancy issues are down. So many things are impacted, healthcare costs, therapeutic costs, right? All of those things go down as far as cost goes, while the value and not value, but life experiences go up because of those first 5 years. So it's absolutely critical, and especially for children in low income situations. We know the detrimental effects of isolation at that age, right? Of increased screen time. A television is not a babysitter, right? We need to get children in a high quality setting to make those connections and build that sustainable childhood experience for the rest of their life. So we're definitely seeing why we need to invest and how other public dollars would then be diverted because of that investment. Mm-hmm. Yes. The average cost of an annual tuition for early childhood education is right around $10,500. Infant care is higher than that, usually $12,000 or so, but we're looking around the $10,000, $11,000 investment mark per child for high quality care. Yes. That's a great question. And Community Connections for Children, we are working with community-based organizations to help make those unhoused connections, even for temporary care. So we do have great resources here in York County, but there's work to be done, particularly for those transitional unhoused, how we might be able to give them some of that continuity of their day, right? When they're going to live in their car in the evening, but they have 10 hours or 12 hours at a high quality program during the day. So those are things we're looking at, and certainly connecting with those nonprofit pockets that are serving that population so that they're aware of resources. Our organization, Community Connections for Children, all the child care work subsidies flow through our organization. So we work with low-income individuals day in and day out, signing up for those services, paying out for those services. And so that is a big part of what we do. How do we make those connections and meet people where they are today, right?
Just kind of a comment on Deb's question of what are the effects of not having early childhood exposure. They are helpers. Spoke to us some years ago and gave this example of a kid who starts kindergarten never having been in a child care situation and starting off behind right off the bat. And next thing you know, this engagement that you'd like to see at the kindergarten level and on is not working. And sure, we're sitting here, this is a kid who's going to have a difficult time through school, probably look for to get out of school and not show up when he's supposed to be there, all of those things. It is amazing how that is a bad way to start life for a kid.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. We often hear early childhood education and kindergarten readiness. I like to think of early childhood education and lifespan, right? Yes, our kindergarten and first grade and early elementary teachers love receiving children who have had a high quality experience in those younger years. And certainly we want to set every child up for success in whatever path they want to take. But yeah, you can see real differences. And Kim, who delivers care, manages, an early learning program here in York County, can speak even more to that, to the impact of a single child's experience on what the rest of their life is. I failed to mention too, the multi-generational impact of this kind of investment, right? It doesn't just stop at that one child. It's what does that one child then go on to do, family created, impact in their career. It really is a social issue. And we want to see more children receiving that high quality start to life. Any other questions? I thought I saw a hand. Any other questions? All right.
Katie, thank you so much. Actually, if you would just stay up here. In recognition of your presentation, we would like to donate a book to the Logos Academy. And I'll get you to sign this, and we'll be giving a book to the Logos Academy so kids have something to read in the library that's there. You took me back though, when you said at the beginning, think of your early childhood experiences. I would say, and I'm at that 50-year-old mark, but I think that most of us in the room, we probably didn't really have daycares that we went to. I mean, our experiences of growing up, it was with family. And it's interesting in how things have evolved, and where really what we need to create is that family experience for these kids. And, I would certainly say I learned a lot on the farm where I grew up with my grandparents. And I'm sure all of us can kind of relate to that similar kind of an experience. But again, it was still with family. And I think it's important that we try to have that connection with the kids now and make them feel like they are a part of the family, even when both parents have to be off and at work. So I really want to thank you for your presentation. Tim, I think, do you want to try to get a photo here real quick? Here. Yep. Please, let's all give Katie a great round of applause. Does anybody have anything else for the good of the meeting this morning? If not, I'm going to say that we are adjourned. Have a great week, and we'll see you here next week.